All right, very good. So now you've all had the experience of having a muscle tested and how to correct it when it's out of balance. So we're just testing the muscle for now to make sure that the muscle is locking in the beginning, has good integrity, and if it's not, how to correct it, right? So if it unlocked in the beginning, we would rub the points on the chest, the neurolymphatic points, firmly. And how do we hold the head point? Lightly, good. And for how long?
30 seconds.
30 seconds, sometimes a minute, sometimes longer. And then what do you do to make sure that anything has happened?
Retest.
You retest. Okay, so it's a pretty simple process.
What if you retest and nothing's happened?
So the question is, what happens if you retest and nothing has happened? Well, you kind of want to assess, did it get any weaker, or did it stay the same, or did it get a little stronger? Sometimes it'll get a little stronger, but not quite up to speed. If it's gotten stronger, but not 100%, it might mean you just need to do these a little bit longer. You need to rub them longer, more firmly. Maybe you need to hold the head point a little bit longer. If it got weaker, which is possible, it might mean that that particular muscle circuit, we have the concept of under and over energy in the meridian system. When some meridians are blocked, they may get over energized, have too much energy. It's like a stream coming in and it just starts to overflow. But downstream, there may be some deficiency of energy. And so normally, when a muscle unlocks, well, in the beginning, we really don't know, is it deficient or is it excess? More often than not, it's deficient, but occasionally a muscle unlocks because it is really excess, and rubbing these points actually adds more energy to it, and it just would make it weaker at that point. So the quality of the response actually can give you a little bit more information. The other possibility, most of the time, the neurolymphatics and the neurovasculars are the corrections that work for the vast majority of people. But occasionally there could be other systems affected that might need to be upgraded for that muscle to function well. And that's one of the things we learn about in Touch for Health. We learn about all the other different corrections. But for the introductory class, we're actually going to keep it pretty simple and just use these first two for most of the corrections. Okay? But thank you for your question. That was great.
Thank you.
All right. And we have another question? Yes?
A response.
Oh, another response.
Yeah.
Okay. So, my assistant.
So with a new person, sometimes they need coaching about how to hold. And so, you need to say to them, oh, you need to hold harder. Some people, they'll hold the muscle up, but they don't quite understand the concept, and so it's kind of like a wet noodle. So sometimes you might have to say to somebody, hold twice as strong. Whereas other times you might have to say to somebody, hold half as strong. And so they need some coaching so that they can somatically get it in their own system. Like, oh, that's how I'm supposed to do it. And once you have the experience of how it functions in you, then you can build from there. But sometimes with a new person, the coaching is the really important part, and that's also part of what gets taught in the class.
Yeah. Sometimes people are resisting too hard, and you can just notice it in their body language. They've got all their whole bodies behind it, and they're really, and and then we just go back and say the purpose of muscle testing is to see differences in muscle strength and performance. We're not trying to overpower, or this isn't a wrestling contest. We're really just looking for, can the muscle hold easily, or is there a change in the muscle response? And the change gives us information, and it gives us feedback. So we may be evaluating something, like what we're going to do next, and be able to notice, is there a difference in the muscle response? Now, we've all corrected that first step, made sure that the muscle can hold easily, and if it doesn't, we've upgraded the muscle. Now we want to check and see, can the muscle respond to stress? Because if we don't check this next step, we might have a muscle that has a circuit that's what we call blocked, and it's not going to give you any information. So this next step helps assure us that the muscle can respond when presented a stressor, okay? So who would like to come up and let me demonstrate this next one? I've kind of already done this earlier today. Great. Julie?
Mm-hmm.
Thank you. So, okay to test you?
Yes.
And everything okay with the shoulder?
Mhm.
I'm gonna have you kind of face me if you don't mind.
Mhm.
And I'm gonna ask you to bring your arm straight up and ask you to hold it there. How did that feel?
Fine.
Fine. I'm gonna tweak the muscle. I'm gonna push together on the belly of the muscle. And that's the muscle that I'm testing, the anterior deltoid, and retest. Did you notice a difference that time?
Very slight, I had to add more pressure.
You had to add more pressure, okay.
Mhm.
So then I'm gonna invite you to keep the same amount of pressure you had the first time, and if you start to feel it giving, let it go, right, you got it. So let's do it with this one, we'll come back to that one in a minute. Ready, hold, okay, and now I'm gonna push together on the belly of the muscle. And ready, hold, oh yeah, you got it. You feel the difference?
Yeah.
Okay, now I'm gonna pull apart on the belly of the muscle, and ready, hold. You feel a difference there? Let's do it on this side again, if you would. Hold here, and then I'm gonna push together, and ready, hold. That one's still not letting go quite as easily. All right, I'm gonna teach you a little something that is actually not in the manual. Julie, if you would come up again. We're going to help the muscle reset, because this muscle isn't unlocking as easily as that one did. So, and you've already experienced on this side, so you know what that is. So we might have a little blockage going on. I'm gonna ask you to push up against pressure, and now push down against pressure. Okay, so what we're doing is like a little isometric exercise here. And now I'm gonna push together again on the belly of the muscle and retest. Not letting go any easier?
A little bit.
A little bit. All right, we might wanna work on the ends of the muscle a little bit, the origin insertion. Maybe the muscle just hasn't woken up this morning, right? Like some of us, right? All right. So let's just do a little origin insertion. And again, we're gonna push on the belly of the muscle. And ready, hold.
That's better.
It's a little better,
Mm-hmm.
okay, and ready, hold. This one seems to be a little more cooperative and talkative to us here.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, maybe I might have to put a little bit more pressure. I don't usually like to put too much pressure though. Okay, so what I'm gonna invite you to do is sense that difference within yourself.
Mm-hmm.
And when you feel it giving, be able to let it go more easily. I'm gonna try one more time, not giving up on Julie. Hold here. Okay, now I'm gonna push together. And ready, hold. Okay, there it goes.
Mm-hmm.
And what I did was rather than push harder, I actually pushed lighter. And you would think pushing harder would show it better, but for some people, especially people that are strong, many times pushing lighter and smoother will show it easier, because then the body's not gonna recruit and be able to draw in other possible muscles that might help hold it as well.
You basically pulled the rug out.
I basically did, didn't I?
Mhm.
All right, so one more time. After about 10 seconds, the muscle tends to reset. So if you wait long enough, that muscle will go back. There we go. Perfect, thank you.
Mhm.
Let's put it back, just to make sure, and hold. Yeah, thank you so much. That's a great, so this is a great point, and I'm so glad Julie's muscle cooperated with us, is sometimes we think logically, I have to push harder, right? Because I'm gonna work on somebody maybe that's stronger, but actually, sometimes pushing lighter and smoother gets the muscle to show that difference more easily.
Okay, so
Question?
to reiterate, because I believe you said this before, but I need to absorb it. Okay, so when you went in and then mushy,
I
mushy
push
wishes
to-
go
push together,
comes
that's right.
together, and strengthening is going out, right?
That is correct.
Okay, so but you're not actually putting pressure, so you're really demonstrating the energy in the meridian when you do it that way.
Okay.
Are you putting that out, or because you're really basically not touching her, you're just like.
I did touch her. I
She
did,
did touch you, I couldn't see you really.
yes, Yes.
Okay.
So Tanya's thinking, am I doing it just with the energy to change the muscle response? I actually did push on the muscle, not deeply, but enough that the muscle fibers could feel that tension going towards the belly of the muscle. And those of you that are massage therapists know about proprioceptive mechanisms in the muscle, right? And the spindle cell mechanism monitors that tension. So what we're doing is we're pushing together on the belly of the muscle towards the center, and that message that's being received by the spindle cell is the muscle's too tight, I need to relax and let go. And so if you're pushing together to manually cramp the muscle, sending the signal that it's too tight, what happens is the response in the nervous system, and then subsequently the muscle, is to let it go, let the muscle relax. And if you're doing that, either at the same time, usually we push together and then test it within a second or two afterwards, then the muscle will release because the mechanism in the belly of the muscle has told the muscle, relax. And so the muscle can't hold, even if you're working on somebody who's pretty strong. I actually did this on a professional football player once. He was, I think he was a linebacker for the Baltimore Ravens.
He's a lineman.
Lineman, yeah, he was a big guy. His arm was probably bigger than my thigh, my leg. I mean, no kidding, I could have held on him all day like this. And what I did was I pushed together on the belly of his deltoid. I decided to use the arm out to the side to give me a little bit of an advantage. And when I pushed on the belly of the muscle and then pushed the arm down, his arm went down, much to his amazement. And my neighbor, I thought his eyes were I'd have to plug him back into his head. He just almost fell out of his head, he was so surprised. But pushing on the belly is the thing towards the center, relaxes the muscle. And in your book, the next thing that we are learning, that's what we're doing. That's called the physical challenge of the muscle test. And it says, push together in the belly of the muscle. Now, I'm a very visual person, so I like to put arrows pointing inward on the muscle. So if that helps you to remember, push to mush, push towards the center, that would be helpful. You might want to.
So if I'm gonna do my forearm, of course, I'll push into my triceps, right?
Biceps.
Biceps.
Yeah.
So I push in here, deltoids up here for this, pull up my arm. So I need to go back into my organ insertions.
Yeah. Fortunately, when we teach Touch for Health, we usually have in our Touch for Health book the muscles, whether you're using the complete edition or the manuals we have here. We also show where the muscles are very clearly, and then you just push together in the belly of the muscle, whichever muscle that you're actually testing,
Right.
which is in contraction.
Yeah,
So-
I'll just say really quick. Arlene is saying you push together in the belly of the muscle, but you could just slide the fingers along the skin above the muscle. You don't have to dig deep.
Okay.
It still works.
Yeah.
It activates the muscle into thinking it's tightening up, and the nervous system says you don't need to be that tight.
Yeah, so
Okay.
it relaxes it.
Uh-huh.
And then reversing it, starting in the belly, pulling outwards, does what?
Lengthen it.
Lengthens it and strengthens it, okay? So push to mush, lengthen to strengthen is a good memory peg for you all. Now, it's not gonna work if you push cross fibers. It has to be with the fiber length, okay? Did everybody hear that? It has to be with the fiber length that you're pushing. If you do cross fiber, it does not work, all right? So that's an important point. If you get a cramp, say in your quadriceps, you would have to push the length of the fibers towards the belly of the muscle. Going across fiber will not help it, all right? Now, this is a test to see if the muscle can respond. If it can't respond, like Julie's muscle was a little uncooperative this morning, but that's okay, that happens sometimes. You can either do the isometric pressure, or you can rub a little origin or insertion. Sometimes you just have to ask the person to relax, take a breath, and be testable. But normally when you push together on that belly, it will let go of the muscle. The other thing that you can check, and we did this morning, is an emotional check. So you present a stress. You say to the person, just think of something stressful. You don't have to tell us what it is. It could be running late to class. It could be, oh, I've got to talk to somebody tomorrow. I'm not looking forward to it, or whatever. And you think of that, and as they're thinking of that stress, you test the muscle. And usually that also will show a change in response, because what we're testing for is the body's response to stress. Okay? So you're gonna get to work with everybody hopefully today. You're gonna find a different partner and test the belly, the muscle, and then on the other side of the body, the other arm, test a stressful thought and see if both sides unlock with those checks, all right? And then there's a third one that we sometimes check, but I don't like to check it in my space because I'm a little biochemical sensitive, is to present some kind of biochemical stress, which could be like, a smelly magic marker, or something that's, doesn't smell good for somebody. That can also, the smell can also cause a stress response in the body. But usually we kind of defer to these first two. Usually they do the trick.
Okay, so when they're coming in, right, say they come in, we're dealing with the stress response, right? I mean, initially, sometimes people don't really, they don't really know that they're stressed,
Mhm.
Now, if I say, hey, think of something stressful, to me, that's causing you to, if you're say you're not stressed, and I say, hey, think of something stressful, right? Of course, that's gonna give you a stress response.
Mhm.
Wouldn't I test you first to kind of see
Good.
where you at?
Thank you. I didn't make that as clear as I could have, so I do appreciate your question. So when we're checking the muscles, we always check them in the clear first.
Right.
Absolutely.
Okay.
So we want to make sure that the muscle is starting out locked. So we've already done these steps before.
Mhm.
We're learning this, so we're taking it one piece at a time. But I'm going to show you what it's going to look like when we put it all together.
Got it.
But at this point, what we're going to check next, after we've checked the muscle is locking, is we're going to check to see that the muscle can unlock. So you do want to have that baseline first.
Mhm.
Thank you for clarifying that, okay? So now that you're going to work with a different partner, let's start from the beginning. Hi, is there anything I need to know before I get started? Is it okay to test you? And then check both sides, make sure they're locking. And then if they are, you can check the physical stress, the spindle cell, and also the emotional stress. All right? So you have 5 minutes to do that? Yeah.
Oh, sure.
There.
Oh, we don't have any tellers.
Absolutely not. Testing to see if the integrity of this muscle is good. It lost around and now I'm going to come over here. Check the side.
We'll go back in and keep your hand on the table.
Now I'm going to check physical integrity.
Just one. And then you can compare to the other side. So you'll hold it here. And then
So
you
if
say,
it starts to here, then you can just
and then
let it
you,
go. And you can tell your people that.
Okay.
And then a lot of times if I'm not sure, I'll say, how does that feel to you? And then, because a lot of people,
switch sides, compare
it's
to the
really
other.
getting the individual to be able to
And give
differences and give feedback, because a lot of it has to do with.
Go really slow and smoothly. And if
So,
you're not sure, do it again.
okay. So what I did was.
No, this one. Oh, no, okay.
I just started looking
Think of something.
Okay.
Yeah, I know. I did.
First, go there and
So how
You
long do we
here normally
Yeah.
start with these points, and then we. Thirty seconds, 15, it depends on how firm you're pressing. If you're pressing really firm, you can only
Yes.
use it about 10
I've been trying to, block you.
and then you retest.
And I can go some.
Is there a time period?
You wanna do it in a second or two.
But like, five.
I'm not gonna be as good as but I'm gonna try.
Is it basically
I get some strong this week, and Arlene said that.
Did that let go?
That's my body can't.
Oh, in just in general, oh, so first you just check it to be clear, you don't do it. You just check it, that's what you were asking, right?
It's not good.
Check the individual.
Okay, so that was too much. Okay.
And now when I thought about my miniature horse and always like,
Those you rub, remember with the pressure, and
Thank you.
I'm trying to
then
remember for
you
this
just
one,
do
not so
those
much
first.
pressure.
Do you do that after every time you?
Only if it's unlocking.
And now.
If it's mushy.
Right.
So that's kind of the thing.
Then you got
This
one
one
strength.
The push, if we're, but I thought if you go.
This is later, this is later. First, you check this one clear. Okay, so you wanna make sure that it's holding. If in the beginning it's not holding, that's when you do the reflex points. That's for any muscle you're testing, that's right. This is once the muscle is strong. Once you've gotten the muscle upgraded, or the muscle
It
you
did.
need it
Okay, so
upgraded, it's
now
already
you just
strong.
stay,
Then
held there,
then
and
you
then
push
again
together
lengthen
to
to
see,
separate.
can it unlock? That's what this test is about.
Oh, like this.
You're
It
doing the
is,
opposite of.
it's another way of assessing, you wanna make sure the muscles will start, indicating it has good integrity, but you also wanna make sure it can respond to stress. That's why you're showing that it can unlock.
It was strong.
Yeah.
So, you only have to
And you
do a
already
couple
tried to
times.
strong.
Keep me going out, yes. So.
Yeah, and here's a better one, keep it
You can try
here
to coach her
and do it with this hand, that way
So,
you're ready to
so,
go with
we'll
that.
be doing a test.
And just see what happens.
Okay.
You know, and maybe you just need to recalibrate.
See how they go.
And maybe rather than like that,
Oh.
just make it steady, slow and steady.
Test, you know, does this work, does this work until you
Okay,
find
you got that?
what you need?
A lot of
Oh,
times
I'm giving too much
you
pressure
set-
again.
And that's what it's on the side, right?
Yes, if I test somebody, and I'm
Instruments
strong,
into that.
And now.
That's correct.
And then we go into.
Then you check it.
and try for other people, and you do this to reset, make everything.
And we now. Now.
Then you go and make sure that it can unlock as well.
Say to somebody,
This is just checking, you wanna check to make sure the muscles unlock at the beginning, and that it can respond to stress. Because yours didn't in the beginning, that's why we should check it.
Yeah.
I had a friend who attended classes here. She lives from 3 miles from here.
like that, or have
It's
a-
a new area. Yeah.
Good. You can hold your arms.
Oh, well, it's like this. I get it now, like, ready to test. I didn't know why.
Here.
Like,
You know, like,
well, now I know, I felt the difference, it's like.
Yeah.
Yeah,
You can do this.
Here we go. Yes, yes, I got that.
It didn't take a hold.
I'm good
Should I
now.
tell her to hold?
Well, if she says, oh, it wasn't good.
Were you ready?
No.
Just try again.
Okay.
So do it again.
Yes.
Tell her to hold. So you
I'll
can
do this again.
So be a monkey if I'm weak.
So this muscle is
I can see.
Uh-huh.
I wanted to this way. Where was I? Okay.
Yes, your family and friends.
I can just show up. Come on, it's adorable.
Tell her to hold. Does it feel like it's working for you?
Yeah.
Yeah, and you know, sometimes with this work, just getting somebody to the foundation that is coaching can be as important as the actual
Here. Can I do it again, or am I gonna wear a muscle
I'm
out?
not gonna worry about it.
Oh, okay, can I weaken it again?
Okay.
Oh.
All right. All right, so everybody had a chance to try out the muscle testing, get a feel for differences and what to do if the muscle unlocks. So let's just review again. It has, in our little box here, it says before muscle testing, always ask permission to test, do your pre-checks. Now, that's something, we had just done them before we started the taping of the how to do muscle testing. We went into the switching points this morning, and normally we go ahead and do those right before we do the testing. So we would test the, actually we'd just go ahead and rub the points side to side on the collarbone. Mary, you want to do that with me too? And then we do above and below the lips. And then we do front to back, rubbing the tailbone. Okay. And then we talked about, and the idea of the Central Meridian running in the front and how it runs in a certain direction, but we didn't actually check it. So, Mary, would you let me demonstrate on you for this one? All right. So if you stand straight ahead, so these people can see over here this way, looking that way. I'm going to ask you to bring your arm out to the side and hold it there. How does that feel? Does that feel strong? Yeah? No? Yes? Should we do this side? All right, hold there. And normally, the Central Meridian runs up the front of the body. So if we test the Central Meridian up the front, let's see what happens with the muscle test. Uh-oh, that unlocked. Let's go down. And it stays strong. So normally, running it up makes it stay strong, and running it down makes it unlock. So what that means is that in the moment,
Switched.
my friend Nuri here has kind of switched directions, and he's what we call over-energized in the Central Meridian. So what we're going to do is we're going to do a correction by just flushing it. Can you do this with me at the same time, Nuri? We're going to go up and down in the front, right in the middle of the body.
I have a question. That extra energy, would that help me, like, because it's a child, like?
Well, if they're a little on the hyper side, that could actually have some. So she's asking about children having excess energy. Sometimes you see children having this bundle of energy and they can't seem to contain themselves. Sometimes if you check that Central Meridian, it could be because it's excess. And flushing it, kind of moving that excess out, kind of flushing it both ways, will eventually calm it down to move out some of the excess. And let's just check it now and see if that changed at all. Hold here. Okay, so if you would turn this way, honey, and then I'm going to bring it up again. Does that feel better? And when I go down now, you see it lets go. So let's bring you up. We don't want to leave you unlocked. Okay, thank you. You feel the difference? So that's something you can do on yourself. Is that cool? All right, he's a little shy. So, so Central Meridian comes straight up the front of the body and is under the lower lip. And you can test that as one of your pre-tests after you've rubbed the switching points. You can check the Central Meridian, see if it's normally it unlocks going down and it stays strong coming up. Just make sure you leave them in the up position, right, if that's the case. If it's not the case and coming up unlocks the muscle, then you do what we just did, which is doing the flush up and down, up and down.
Is there a question? Yeah, I do have a question because I have a 3-year-old. And so I'm wondering if that's too, I'd like to be able to do some of this work with her because she's all over the place.
Yeah.
If that's too young, no, okay.
Yeah. Touch for Health with these guys before. I think they were just like one or less, you know, actually from the get-go. And you may not be able to test them directly. I think, Nuri, we started testing you at what, when you were 2 maybe? Yeah, I think so. Maybe 3. I remember I was testing my grandson, he was 4 and my granddaughter was 2, and I was testing him for vitamins to see, you know, if his body was gonna be helpful for him. And he got the vitamin, and my granddaughter kind of looked at me and scowled a little bit, and she couldn't talk at that point, she went, put her arm out and said, what about me, essentially. So, you know, they learn pretty quick. And they understand that if the muscle unlocks, what does that mean? Probably means it's not good for you, huh? Yeah, right, it's causing some stress to the body. So, we put together, step by step this morning, some of the different elements of what we're going to do next. And what I'd like to do now, oh, by the way, with the Central Meridian, this is a great one to know if you're feeling a little sleepy, right? Sometimes that Central Meridian, you know, starts to get a little under energy. You can just bring that energy up, but make sure that when you run it up, you bring your hand away so that you're not just running up and down, but just bringing it up a couple times can be helpful. I often do this when I'm driving, if I'm feeling a little sleepy. And then rubbing the endpoints firmly can be helpful too. So just a little thing to know for that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to move this chair over to here, and we're going to put, actually I'm going to put, Nuri, you're going to help me with doing the balance, right? So we're going to put the flashcards here. Maybe we'll put them over here on this table. And we have some little Touch for Health flashcards that we use in our classes, sometimes along with the book. And if you would let me move this out a little bit too. We're going to do what you're going to experience shortly, which is a Touch for Health balance. And a Touch for Health balance is composed of testing a series of muscles, 14 muscles in the body that are related to the 14 major acupuncture meridians. And when we test a muscle, we're looking for what we just did this morning to see if the muscle has good integrity. Now, you're not going to find it in this book because that's what we teach in the Touch for Health 1 class. But this is a Touch for Health intro class. And what's that, Terry?
You'll see the names of them.
The names of the muscles will be in the back. But the actual
Page
testing,
14.
We teach in the Touch for Health level 1 class. All right? So Mary, if you want to stand up, we're going to start the balance. And I'm going to balance. I have, one of the things with Touch for Health is that you can balance for different goals or